Hey, welcome into the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely coming to you from his home. I'm Maurice Patton, once again here in the Main Street Murray Studios in Columbia. Big show today, big weekend this weekend on the fields and courts and off as well. A lot to get to today. We're bringing our hard hats and our lunch pails, so ready to get to work. Wade, what's up, man? How was your weekend?
Weekend was great, Mo. Good to be with you. Good to see you again. Good to see producer Mark making magic happen behind the scenes. And yeah, pumped for a big show right here. Like you said, no real shortage of of things to get into.
Great day to be a local sports talk show host. There is plenty to get into. Again, a lot took place over the weekend, and it did not let up this morning, as I've mentioned here on the show on numerous occasions. One of the first things I do when I get up is check my phone, and there was news popping as soon as I woke up. So we're going to get into all of it here in the next bit. In the second hour, we'll be visiting with TERESA M. Walker of the Associated Press to get into some of that morning news. In particular, we'll be talking little Titans, or a lot of Titans, with TERESA as they get ready to open camp tomorrow, minus a key figure. Um, in the next segment, we will be joined by Dr. MIKKI Allen, athletics director over at Tennessee State University. Dr. Allen had a big weekend as well. That was kind of what I was fired up about as we went to bed last night, to get to talk to today, and excited to get him on, because he has taken a couple of hits and responded in resounding fashion, man. Really excited to talk to him about what's going on the Tennessee State campus athletically these days. So he's going to be our guest in the next segment. We'll also be talking some Braves. Whew. Yeah, some Braves, little Astros as well, some Major League Baseball in general. College football, we keep saying it. It's right around the corner. It's getting closer. Tragic news out of the SEC. Man, we keep talking about this stuff way too much. And another shooting claims another young life. And I'm just stunned at how much time we're devoting to these type occurrences. Man, y'all got to do something. We got to do something. But some college football news to talk about, some pro football news to talk about. Again, we'll be visiting with TERESA Walker later in the show as well. And again, it is the weekend wrap up, which means we got to talk about Nashville Soccer Club. Also got to talk about the WNBA All-Star Weekend, a little golf, and a little NASCAR. So plenty to get into here over the next couple of hours as we talk local, regional, and national sports topics, and really, again, fired up to do so. So, Wade, should we get started?
I say we do it, Mo. You rolled through all that. We have finally made it. This is the last full week without football. We have made it. So if we can make it just to that Hall of Fame game next Thursday, we have officially arrived. So we've survived the summer. We've kind of guided our way through it. But don't worry, folks. Football is on the horizon. If we can just make it one more week. It's like Christmas coming early.
Easier said than done, I guess, because we certainly battled through it. But yeah, it's here. It is upon us at every level, pretty much. So that'll be something to get into here as we progress. Let's go ahead and get started. No football on the rundown, but let's give you this weekend's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Monday rundown upon us, folks, and you know what that means. Each and every single Monday, our rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County. So give them a call today. That number is 931-388-5831, or you can visit them online at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
Major League Baseball results from Friday night. It was the Atlanta Braves open in the second half with a 7-3 win over the visiting New York Yankees, minus Max Fried. had some blister issues and could not go. And the Braves took full advantage of the Yankees' bullpen start there. 7-3, the victory down at Truist Park. Houston falls in its opener to the second half on the road as the Seattle Mariners down the Astros 6-1. In minor league baseball action at First Horizon Park, it was the Nashville Sounds winning a rain-shortened 6-1 victory against the visiting Indianapolis Indians.
Let's roll into Saturday. Major League Baseball scores coming your way. The Yankees defeated the Braves 12-9 on Saturday, and the Mariners defeated the Astros 7-6. Nashville Sounds did bounce back or continue their streak versus Indy with a nice win. A little 3-run victory there, 7-4 in favor, again, of Nashville over Indianapolis. MLS action, we touched on it a moment ago. NSC with a nice victory. 1-0 was your final. Got to go early. Made it hold up for the remainder in that victory at home. WNBA All-Star game, points aplenty, but it was Team Collier defeating Team Clark 151-131.
Sunday action in Major League Baseball. It was the New York Yankees doubling up the Atlanta Braves 4-2 despite home runs from first Matt Olson and late Ronald Acuna Jr. The Sounds unable to complete the 3-game sweep of the visiting Indianapolis Indians as Indy gets a 7-3 victory to close out that series yesterday evening over at First Horizon Park. And one other Major League Baseball game of note, it was Houston taking out some frustration on the host Seattle Mariners, 11-3 to avoid the sweep up in the Pacific Northwest for the Astros there in that one. Again, Indianapolis with a 7-3 win over the Sounds, and Scotty Scheffler doing Scotty Scheffler things. We'll be talking about this more later in the show, but finishes 17 under to win the British Open. Took control of this thing on Saturday, was up 4 strokes coming into the final round and held on. So another major victory for Scotty Scheffler. Ho hum. What else is new?
Took care of business. Royal Port Rush this weekend. Into your MLB schedule. That's for today, folks. Buckle up at 6:15. FanDuel Sports South will be your location for Giants at Braves. And at 8:40 tonight, it'll be the Astros still out west taking on the Diamondbacks. Again, Braves and hosting the Giants at 6:15 on FanDuel Sports South. Astros at D-backs at 8:40. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your Monday schedule, and that concludes your Monday rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. We talk a lot on this show about windows, and we're not actually talking about the physical glass structures, but those Microsoft opportunities. Or Microsoft. No, we're definitely no. Mm-hmm. We're talking about those opportunities that franchises have, sports franchises, or at the collegiate level, sports programs have of being particularly successful. And apparently, the Los Angeles Clippers feel that they are in theirs because they just brought in point guard Chris Paul on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. That's 39-year-old Chris Paul playing in his 21st season, played in all 82 games this past year for the Spurs, and will likely be a backup since they just signed Bradley Beal, but they are trying to maximize their opportunity. I guess maybe they feel like the Western Conference is kind of wide open. Maybe they didn't see Oklahoma City this postseason. I don't know, but, it's interesting. Chris Paul going back to the Clippers.
Going back to the Clippers, and I mean, you can make the case that this is going to be the most talented Clippers team that he's been a part of. They had some legendary runs. I was in the building a couple of times when they got the Grizzlies in the playoffs in the grindhouse with looking at you, Nick Young, with a key fourth quarter comeback there. But the fact remains, this is a little bit of a window, and this is really kind of a perfect landing spot for Chris Paul, who did play all 82 last year. despite, the opportunity. He could have very easily sat a couple games out, especially once the Spurs really kind of went into tank mode after the Wemby injury. But if he is, that elusive ring chase for Chris Paul, this is probably one last gasp. It will not be enough for him because it is OKC's to lose at this point. But I respect the effort. I respect the hustle. And, they did bring in Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal goes from the worst contract in NBA history to the Clippers bring him in on maybe the best contract in NBA history because they've signed him to a shrewd deal, and getting out from under what he was getting paid in Phoenix. Again, it won't carry the Clippers to a title by any stretch, in my opinion, but at least we'll get them in the conversation. We saw some compelling. That 7-game series versus Denver in the first round was still one of the best of all the postseason.
You feel like, to your point, this may be one of the more talented rosters the Clippers have put together when you include Beal, James Harden, and Kawhi, if you get a healthy Kawhi in particular. But again, Chris Paul spent 6 seasons with the Clippers from 2011 to 2017. In those 6 seasons, he was named All NBA Defensive Team, all 6 of them. He was All NBA on 5 of those occasions. So you're not getting that Chris Paul.
No, you're bringing him. Yeah, you're bringing him in for some mentorship and on the cheap, and whatever you get out of him will be great, right?
You would think. Again, he's going to go to the post. He and 5 other players started all 82 games last year. Each of the other 5 players were at least 7 years younger than him. So, again, you can't question the hustle or the ability, the willingness to be available. They say the best ability is availability, and Chris Paul certainly gives you that. Now, again, how many games is he going to start for the Clippers?
They're hoping none, because that means everybody else is healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So, he selects the Clippers over the crosstown rival Lakers, apparently. But, a point guard for the Lakers is kind of like an offensive coordinator for Florida when Steve Spurrier was there. I mean, you don't need that. So this is probably a better fit for him, and it's a better fit for the Clippers. So I'm just intrigued by this at this point of his career. Kudos to him for taking a look and saying, hey, I'm 39. I've not won a ring. I'm not going to start anyway. I might as well go somewhere where I've got a chance to contribute to a winning team that's got a shot. Now, again, your defending NBA champion resides in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City, and they've not done anything that makes you think they're taking a step back in 25-26.
No, and again, if the issue here, and this is a nice little deal for LA in that sense that you can plug and play Paul in for some sneaky minutes to spell some of the other guys, because this is a Clippers roster that features they're old. They have 9 players above 30 years old, and 8 of those 9 are 32 or older, with obviously Paul being the eldest of that bunch. But this is almost a nostalgic Clippers team in that sense. Yes, Kawhi can still go and can still give you some really, really productive stretches. We saw it even as recently as this postseason. Harden can kind of do the same. He's good for at least 1 or 2 games in the playoffs where he can turn back the clock. But Beal kind of coming in was the big piece for them in terms of maybe solidifying some things. But yeah, they are long in the tooth, and maybe that's what they're banking on is, we're not the most talented. We're not the youngest team, but we're hoping that our veteran leadership, and if we're strategic with the way we kind of manage our load, we might be able to outsmart you in some of these key situations down the stretch.
You got to feel like experience counts for something, right?
It does until you play the Thunder or the Nuggets, most likely. And then, it really doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah. So you feel like third is pretty much their max out in the Western Conference.
Third feels up for grabs. Yeah, if they stay healthy, third very much feels up for grabs for them if they play well. I mean, the Rockets are going to certainly be in that mix. The Lakers, who knows? Maybe I don't know that the Lakers will be able to sustain what they did in the second half of this season over the course of 82 games. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ayton has a fantastic year and really plugs the hole there. But yeah, I can see them maybe pushing up to third if everything kind of holds serve. Minnesota's obviously going to be in that conversation as well. So, and then, take your shot in the playoffs. You get in that 4-5 matchup, perhaps most likely it feels like, and maybe you can push a team to 6 or 7 games, win that series, and then, catch a break in the second round and beyond. But it sure does feel like the nostalgia factor will be high. If this is the last rodeo for Chris Paul, I believe he's the third oldest player actively in the league behind LeBron and PJ Tucker. So if you can get a little mileage out of him, it'll be sweet. And obviously, just like we talked about with Damian Lillard coming back, this is kind of a feel-good, put you nice in the warm and fuzzy blanket if you're a Clippers fan.
I think you might have just broke some news. PJ Tucker still in the league?
Per Wikipedia.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like you might have broken some news with that one because I didn't know. Now, I mean, I'm not the biggest NBA fan.
It was on the Knicks and on the Clippers last year.
Well, there you go. Okay. All right.
They ain't Udonis Haslem old, but they're long in the tooth, these guys I'm talking about.
How old is Al Horford?
I'm going to guess 37.
Okay.
Let's go to the wiki. 39. And looks as good as ever, but physically and in the face, I should say. But he's up there too, and he's don't think he's officially signed anywhere. There was a lot of buzz about him maybe going to Golden State this offseason. Don't know if that ever has panned out officially just yet.
I don't know that I've seen that officially, but yeah, I think I've heard that buzz as well. So be interesting to see where that old guy winds up. So let's take a break here on the weekend the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dr. Mickey Allen, Athletics Director at Tennessee State University. Big weekend for him and for the Tigers on a number of different fronts. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
833.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into the weekend wrap up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We eagerly await the arrival of Tennessee State Athletics Director, Dr. MIKKI Allen. It's been a busy morning for Dr. Allen as they held a press conference earlier today to welcome new men's basketball coach Nolan Smith off of the staff of the University of Memphis and Penny Hardaway. And I don't know if Coach Smith and Coach Penny Collins passed each other at some point on I-40 between here and Memphis or what, because the opening at TSU came up when Coach Collins departed to take a position on the Memphis Grizzlies staff. So it's a little intriguing that his successor comes from the Bluff City. But again, excited to talk to Dr. Allen about this here. Hopefully soon. It's a big hire.
Yeah, big hire, and we touched on it last week. Really, given the time, given kind of the fallout, given kind of the circumstances, this was a real big swing and a smack there for TSU. It feels like to me. Obviously, we sit here and say that right now in late July. This is maybe a 2 or 3 year reevaluation before we can really get a glimpse. But sitting here day one and sitting here seeing the pictures and seeing the video from the press conference this morning, yeah, this feels like a big win for them.
Absolutely. We talked about it, Wade. You and I talked about it. We talked with Joe Sullivan from Main Street Nashville about it. At the time this position came open, Eric Buggs was elevated from his assistant's role under Coach Collins into the interim position. And it felt like, just from a continuity standpoint and that kind of thing, that was going to be the best move for all involved, just keeping things rolling to some degree. But obviously, Dr. Allen decided scared money don't make money. Let's go out and see how big we can, swing hard in case you hit it. And I guess they did.
Yeah. Feels like a smashing success there for TSU, and especially again considering the circumstances and considering kind of the way that this situation kind of crept up in a hurry. It feels like a massive get, and if nothing else, got to be very, very exciting.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have him. The Eagle has landed. Welcome into Main Street Sports Today, Dr. MIKKI Allen, Athletics Director at Tennessee State. Coach, Dr. Allen, still got your press conference duds on, looks like. Thanks for joining us.
I do, man. I got to stay in my attire. But no, it was a great day for the Tigers, and we're elated to have our 18th head coach in place. It's been a process, but I know I hit it right.
Clearly you did. And, Mickey, kind of take us through the thought process from the time that Penny steps away to, contacting Coach Smith and being able to nail that down. Because, again, you elevated Eric Buggs from the assistant role to the interim role. And the conventional thought would have been, let's just kind of hold this thing in the road, especially given the late hour of the coaching change and that kind of thing, and just kind of keep together what we've got. We talked to Coach Collins last year, and, rebuilding that roster after the transfer portal and everything was really tough. Just maintaining that consistency, I don't think anybody would have argued with that. What prompted you to do otherwise?
Well, just from a stability standpoint, in my chair, you have to weigh short term versus long term, and look at what those potential outcomes would be, and how those decisions, being staying with an interim or getting a permanent coach in place and solidifying a contract, how that plays and has an impact on your program long term. And really, when I thought about our recruiting, the recruiting aspect of our program, today's college landscape is so volatile. And so, you got the NIL, you got the revenue gen space. You don't want a situation where you're going through the year with uncertainty on, year to year, is this going to be the guy long term? And so, though Eric Bugs did a phenomenal job, he did a phenomenal yeah, he did a phenomenal job. We definitely appreciate what he did with the program, but I just felt if we could get in the marketplace and Nolan through my network, we had some conversation when I first contacted him. He said this was a dream job. That resounded well in my ears, and I was like, hey, when you got an opportunity to get a Nolan Smith, you go for it, and you go after it with intent, and there was mutual respect for where he was as a rising star in this league, and for our program, there was also reciprocation in terms of his energy and what he thought this opportunity could mean for his career and how he could advance us forward and take that next step.
Mickey, considering
Mickey,
kind of where we're at in the calendar, Mo and I just talked about it, feels like a smash for you guys. And then also considering, it sounds like he was the first choice, and you guys were his first choice. Was there a second or third choice, or maybe can you give us some insight to what maybe the logic tree was, kind of if it didn't pan out with Nolan?
Yeah, we had a lot of great candidates. Though it was a unique time in terms of when Coach Collins informed me that he's going to be transitioning to the Grizzlies. You typically are not hiring a basketball coach in July. That goes on during the Final Four, sometimes in March and April. But you take each situation. I mean, I went through it with Coach George. I mean, you're typically not hiring your football coach in March, but you navigate accordingly, and then you weigh all your options and you look at your prospect pool, who fits. Your current roster, who fits your campus. You go through that process and you do the vetting process with your president because you want to make sure that the academic and athletic initiatives and mission align and that there's alignment there. And so we took all that in consideration. President Tucker's been great in terms of, allowing me to vet and do my job. And he fully trusts me, and I trust his leadership here. And when we got on the phone and we got in front of Nolan, heard all great things about him through my network. The Houston family, Coach Wade Houston, Allen Houston, he's been a part of that family with the Louisville connection. They're like, Uncle Wade, I mean, he's like a play father to me. Allen Houston is well, play brother. And so that made a huge impact in terms of what they felt about Nolan. Then my brother's an NBA coach. Chasen Allen, he's with the Phoenix Suns. He's been with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's been in Washington. So we spoke in terms of X's and O's, style of play. But then, man, when you get on the phone with Coach K, you stop, drop, and roll. You don't just stop, drop, and roll. You listen, and you're all ears. And when he spoke of Nolan and how Nolan, when he placed him at Duke and he allowed him to learn as a Dobo and just as an ops and just work his way up. He wanted him to learn all aspects of the industry. And he says, hey, Mickey, he's ready. Your hair stands up on your arms. We talked an hour, just getting insight from him and knowing that he's going to be with Nolan lockstep in terms of his process and getting us to the next level. The Duke family's in on this. Yep.
how in are they? Any TSU Duke games coming out of this?
Oh man, well that would be awesome. I know Dana gave them a run for their money. They lost by 10 points. I want to say like around 2015, 16, somewhere in there. But it'd be phenomenal. Nolan wants to play his teammate John Shire, so we do anticipate that could come about sooner than later. But we talked today. We're playing Tennessee this year in Knoxville, which that's my alma mater, one of my alma maters. So we're looking forward to that. And you got to play the best. You got to get your brand out there. You got to be relevant. And when you play those guaranteed games, you got to be competitive.
Dr. Mickey Allen, Tennessee State University Athletics Director, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Mickey, back in the day, they used to say that ADs always carried a short list of coaching candidates in their back pocket. I guess with the advent of the iPhone, maybe it's on a notes app now. But is that accurate? I mean, that you have in the
Yeah,
worst case scenario some names in mind if something like this came down?
yeah. Well, all ADs, you're supporting the coach at the helm at the time, but uh, I would be. I mean, if you're in this seat, you better be knowledgeable about what's going on in the collegiate landscape, who's out there, who's hot, who's doing a great job in terms of building a program or maintaining momentum. And at our level, you're looking for who's really making a lot of inroads in terms of recruiting on either power four staffs, mid-major staffs, etc. And so you want to be keenly aware of what's going on around you, but you want to make sure that if you have to make that move, you have options, and you do have a short list, and you talk about it. There's search firms out here, and these guys, they're out here, but you want to make sure it's a good fit for the institution, and so that's what we did. Good job.
You mentioned it a little bit ago. You talked about Eddie George and
Yes, sir.
the timing of his departure to Bowling Green. And I'll just tell you, I don't know how you came on Reggie Barlow, but that just to get these two hires within 4 or 5 months of each other, man, I admire the job that you did with those two jobs, Mickey. I just do, just
I,
because
I appreciate it, Marvin.
you couldn't have seen either of them coming,
Yeah, yeah.
and to bounce back in such a manner as to get a Reggie Barlow with the resume that he brings to Nashville, and then to follow that up with today's official announcement of Nolan Smith. That's just some fantastic work from an AD's position, man. I hope you get all the kudos you deserve for that.
Well, I appreciate you, and man, you've been around this industry, and you've seen the ebbs and flows of it, and different things happen. And so I've just had great mentors, and I'm a people person, so I got a good network of people I trust, from Coach Former to David Cutcliffe to NBA coaches. I'm all over, and it's expansive, and even high school. Played for the great Carlton Flat, which you covered, Reese, and so but everyone that's in that network and in that loop, they all are strategic thinkers, and they don't react. They're always proactive, right? And that's what I've learned. You have to be proactive, and you have to make sure that any move you make in this space, you're doing it for the sake and the well-being and the advancement of the program, but more importantly, the young people, the kids. So anytime this with Eddie and when we went out and got Reggie Barlow, the clock is ticking, man. The window is ticking,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter if you got an interim. And I was the interim at that time, and the reason I said, hey, I'll step in as the interim, I put my whistle on, man. I was in the workouts, me and the prayers, we were
Let's go.
working at President Tuck, but I did that because I just knew that. Eddie George was going to, he was familiar. It was his first head coaching job. So more times than not, what's he going to do? He's going to take his entire staff with him. And so, what you don't want to do is, put someone in an interim capacity that might not be there the day after he leaves or the next day. And so it's a lot of variables, but you want to make sure that you're doing it within the right context of what you want for the kids, but that clock is ticking, man. And so just been blessed, man, to get these two special individuals. Reggie just completed his staff. I mean, man, he rounds out with Shannon Harris. He won a UFL championship with the Defenders. You got Greg Williams, Super Bowl champion coordinator. Dexter Jackson, Super Bowl MVP with Tampa. Reggie was a MVP. I mean, a Super Bowl champion. They got ties with Gruden. I mean, we go all over, man. I mean, it's pretty special.
You talk about rounding out Reggie's staff. You mentioned Shannon Harris, former Tennessee State quarterback who, like you said, just led the DC Defenders to the UFL championship. And I'm going to tell you, I was trying to figure out I reached out to Shannon a couple of times. He stiff armed me, but I was trying to figure out if this was going to fall out the way it did. It was just announced over the weekend. He's coming back as co-offensive coordinator.
Hmm.
You also got Russ Ehrenfeld back, who has been on that campus before. He was on Shannon's staff in
Hmm.
D.C. You also brought in Toriano Morgan, a former receiver at Tennessee State, who had been head coach down at Edward Waters down in Florida. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
you this
I
staff,
mean,
if you're a TSU football fan, you've got some familiarity with a lot of these names, and you got to feel good about what Coach Barlow has done in terms of rounding that staff out, like you said, with
man,
guys that know the lay of the land here in town.
that's important. And we have about a lot of individuals on that staff that are a byproduct of HBCU. Coach Barlow, his stint, obviously as a head coach at his alma mater, Alabama State, but he
Hmm.
competed, against prominent HBCUs, and he was well aware of the history and the lineage of Tennessee State University. Nick Andrews is his receiver coach. He played for Coach Barlow. He's a byproduct of an HBCU, Alabama State. Cedric Thornton, byproduct of of an HBCU. And I mean, you go on and on. And you talk about our alums with Coach Morgan, Coach Harris, Kevin Mashak, who's our director of recruiting. He's been on the staff as a coach, but he's worked his way up and been at Texas A&M and Indiana, and so has a wealth of experience. And so, man, we just couldn't be more fortunate to have individuals that are around our young people that can help them navigate, but to also educate them on where they're at, where their shoes are at, and how they can win in this at Tennessee State in all aspects of life, not only in between the lines but outside the lines as well. And so we're just fortunate that it all came together.
Mickey, I could be wrong on this, but it sounds like a pretty good time to be a
Don't
fan of
forget to
TSU
give
athletics.
Let's go. Yeah, it is. And so and we've been working towards it. We listen. You got to listen to your fan base, man. And so we've tried, and Eddie did try a couple of times to bring some guys in that had big blue roots. And so sometimes it's a timing situation where it doesn't align, but not that you're not trying to do it, but hey, it seems like, man, it just opened up for us in a big way, and we got Big Blue all around us. And I tell everybody, like, hey, Doc, how's the program doing? How's the program doing? I said, we're good, man. We left step, right step, breathe, repeat, like Pat Summer used to say. And every time you look up, man, I tell you, the sky's going to be blue. So, hey, we rolling. The sky's the limit, man.
Love it.
Don't forget to give some love to former Tiger, former Cane Ridge coach Eddie Woods on that staff as well, Mickey.
Oh, we can't forget the coach Eddie Woods, Cane Ridge, got ties in the Memphis area, can recruit his tail off, and loves this place. And it's awesome that we get him around, and he's our tight ends coach and high school relations coordinator. And we're going to surprise some people. Coach Barlow during media days, they have us pick eighth. And so,
Hmm.
okay, we look at it. I think he said it's cute. He said it's cute.
Do you think though that Mickey that some of that comes from just the unknown with
Yeah.
Coach George having left and with so many people having left either via graduation or via the portal, that kind of thing? You just don't know at this point.
No, that's a fair assessment, Reese. I mean, and that's all over the collegiate landscape with the transfer
Hmm.
portal and these windows, and just keeping up with from a roster management analysis standpoint, individuals in your role and your guys. I mean, how you gotta track it, and then it's changing. It's ever changing,
Mm-hmm.
and then how can you really have true predictives, because I mean it's just so new. The rosters are so new, and I think that's our case. Eddie, with Coach George going to Bowling Green, we really turned over, more than 40 student athletes, and so that's a big number when you're trying to say, hey, where do they stand in our rankings. So, but we're going to use it as fuel for fire. We're going to work our way up from eighth up. And so we got some good games on the schedule. We have our John Merritt Classic that starts. We'll kick off on August 30th against North Carolina A&T. They've never been a slouch, and we'll honor the great John Merritt, and what he means to college football, one of the best ever. And then we'll go. We'll take on the Bison. They're coming, man. FCS national title at national champion. We'll play them here. They'll probably bring more than 8,000 fans. They do tailgating and they do it all. I've been around it. Being on the FCS football committee, I was at the national championship game. They really got a good brand, and we wanted to play them. We played them last year, didn't fare well, but we feel we'll play them very well. It'll be a good football game for all football purists to come see on September the 6th, and then we'll take on Alabama A&M on the 13th, and then we got Howard for homecoming, man, on October the 18th. So it's rocking. It's a great time.
You've also got Tennessee Tech coming in to open OVC Big South play on September 27th. Tech
Yes, sir.
picked to win that conference, so you get an early chance to prove that eighth is cute, as Coach Barlow said.
Yeah, and Coach Wilder, he's done a great job. At Tech, very very early here. I want to say he was at Old Dominion, right? Did a great job there, and that community is a very tight knit community. They want to be good in football. They want to be good in everything that they sponsor, and so, but we do too. And we're challenging our folks to make sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, we're challenging our group and our stakeholders to make sure we're relevant in terms of the investment, season tickets, supporting our foundation, but also supporting our young people coming to school here. And President Tucker, man, he has an initiative, man, and there he is right there. That's how often you get the president of the University of the great Tennessee State on in the interview. Look at that.
How y'all doing?
Oh, Dr. Tucker, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it. Like that
You just
tie.
gave me a promotion when you called me doctor, so hopefully
I'm
translate to my conversation. But
I'm
I
sorry.
don't have a PhD.
Well, Mickey's a doctor, so I figured he was hanging with doctors. My bad, sir.
Hey,
But
now look, doctor. I mean, he's got so much acumen, man. From business acumen, it spans across. I'm learning from him. That don't mean nothing, man.
Hey,
I spent 40 years in the credit card processing space, and I've ran organizations up to 50,000 employees, 400, 500 million in revenue. So higher ed is something that I'm here to help reimagine, I guess, if you want to call it that. So,
Mr. Dwayne Tucker, president of Tennessee State University, joining us along with Tennessee State AD Mickey Allen, Dr. Mickey Allen, here on Main Street Sports Today. While I got both of y'all, and I appreciate you dropping by, we talked here in the last 10 days or so about the hockey situation with the team's debut getting pushed back to 26-27, but also with you all getting a financial influx of $250,000 from the Preds and the NHL. How are you feeling right now about the hockey situation and actually getting them to the ice here in the next couple of years?
I'm feeling much better about it. I think the missed opportunity for Tennessee State after I got here and had a chance to look at the hockey program and how it was announced and structured, we really didn't have the funds set aside to be able to accommodate that program. So with that one, the last thing we wanted to do with the other financial challenges that we had was to make the financial challenges worse. So we wanted to make sure that we could raise the money. So the benefit of what the Predators are doing and others, it carries the expense associated with the coach and travel and allowing us to really do it the right way this time around and ensure that we can raise the money to cover the scholarships, the operating costs associated with the practice, and being able to travel. If we're going to do it, I'm a big believer, let's do it in a first-class manner. Let's don't start something and then end up like some other organizations where since you didn't plan for the money or raise the money up front, then you have to shut down the program 2 years later. That we don't want to do that with hockey. So I'm excited about the fact that we're making progress, and I just think we need more time to go out and identify the donors, and I think there's quite a few out there. Then make sure that we open up with all the cash that we need to do it in a first-class manner.
That's awesome.
Hey, sound like you got a doctor to me, huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
without question.
Yes,
Mickey
sir.
Allen, Dwayne Tucker from the campus of Tennessee State University joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We got a bonus, y'all. We appreciate it. Thank both of y'all for joining us here and look forward to catching up with y'all again soon.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Appreciate all you do. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
guys.
We'll
See you
talk.
soon.
Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today. When we come back, we will continue the weekend wrap up, talk a little baseball. Stick around.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing Weather Report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
July 21st, 2007, Cairo, Georgia native Willie Harris matched a franchise record in the Braves' 14-6 win over visiting St. Louis. Harris went 6 for 6 with a pair of triples, scoring 4 runs and driving in 6. The only other Atlanta player to accomplish the feat had been Felix Millan, who had 6 hits in a game in 1970. Harris became the 25th player in 50 years to notch 6 knocks in a 9-inning game. It was the first and only season Harris spent with the Braves in a 12-year Major League career that also included time with the Orioles, White Sox, Red Sox, Nationals, Mets, and Reds. He's currently manager of the Daytona Tortugas, Cincinnati's single-A affiliate. That was this day in Braves history. No triples yesterday for the Braves, as they went down relatively quietly, as has been the case most seasons, most of the year, dropping a 4-2 decision to the visiting New York Yankees. At least it wasn't another one-run loss, I guess. But tough weekend after they opened with a 7-3 victory on Friday night, again taking advantage of Max Fried's inavailability because of blister issues. The Yankees had to go with a bullpen start on short notice, and the Braves showed some offense in that one. Showed some offense Saturday. But while they were showing offense, the bullpen was offensive. Joey Wentz goes 4 shutout innings, leaves the game with a 5-0 lead. They lose 12-9. Bullpen gives up 12 runs in 5 innings. That's not winning baseball. And that was a tough one again. You scored 9 runs. Ozzie Albies homered for the second straight night. Michael Harris homers, but perhaps more significantly, he also draws a walk, his first since May. But as quickly as the offense flowed on Saturday, it was shut off yesterday. They had 7 total hits. Again, home runs by Olsen and Acuna, the only 2 runs that they scored. They fall back to 12 games under 500, and they've got San Francisco coming in tonight. The Giants 52-48. It's Hayden Birdsong going for the Giants 4-3 with a 4.11 earned run average. Bryce Elder 3-6 with a 5.65, but pitched really well right before the All-Star break out in St. Louis. So, maybe he can take some momentum from that into tonight's game. But I just feel like that loss Saturday is really going to have done a number on this team when all is said and done. Again, you're up 5-0, you're up 7-2, and you can't close the door on that one. And that's a win that you feel like you should have gotten.
Yeah, gut punch in that regard. And, what little momentum you were hoping to maybe take away from the series is after a great start on Friday, feels like it kind of went by the wayside on Saturday.
That's a tough one. Good news. Well, a couple of good pieces of good news. The Braves did call up veteran catcher Sandy Leon from AAA Gwinnett and designated Stuart Fairchild for assignment earlier today. So carrying that third catcher tells me that folks are getting more comfortable with the idea of hitting both Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy on a daily basis, which is probably something we should have been doing 2 months ago, but hey, who am I and what do I know? Anyway, trying to get some extra offense in this lineup, because with the way the pitching is going, you're going to have to be able to win some games 9-8, looks like, and having both Baldwin and Murphy in the lineup is going to get you a lot closer to being able to do that, I would think.
Yeah, trying to maybe do that. Now's the other side of this coin we talked about last week so much of, if you don't make any sort of moves, if you don't turn into any sort of selling, then the second half of the season you kind of go to the lab, right? I mean, you kind of start tinkering and figuring out what sort of pieces are viable long term, what sort of combos, what sort of positions have value here and there. So a chance over the next half of the season to kind of tinker with things a little bit.
I mean, you got to get something positive out of a season like this. You got to figure something out. And so, yeah, go back to the lab and figure some things out. Get yourself better for 2026 at this point, because it feels like 2025 is kind of a lost cause, other than just having to play these last however many games that is. What is that? 43 and 55, 98. So 64 more games. Let's get them over with. One of those games will take place August 2nd up in Bristol. The Speedway Classic between the Atlanta Braves and the host, Cincinnati Reds, by the way. Apparently, jerseys for that game have been rolled out, and they've kind of got a NASCAR theme. The numbers with a little bit of a tilt, designed after the numbers on race cars, with outline shadowing and italicized movement to represent a race car's forward motion. So it's not bad. It's a little different, but yeah, the numbers do kind of resemble car numerals. It's And also the caps, the Braves will be wearing caps with flames on the visors and the Reds will be wearing caps with a checkerboard flag type image on their visors. So, and I'm sure folks will be snapping those up as well. The jerseys and caps are available for purchase via the Fanatics network of sites, the MLB flagship store in New York, or the Braves and Reds team shops at Truist Park and Great American Ballpark, respectively. Will also be sold at the Speedway during the game. The unique look as well as the iconic Bristol Motor Speedway will be available for fans to play with in MLB The Show 25 as well. So there's something to look forward to if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, get a little extra uni for your Diamond Dynasty. Chance to mix it up. SeatGeek tells us you can get in for as little as $40 to this thing. That will get you in the door. If you want to sit along the outfield, I'm seeing tickets around 200, anywhere from $100 to $200. But if you actually want to be able to see baseball, if you actually want to lay eyes on a player without the advent of binoculars, going to cost anywhere from $500 to about $1,200 to be actually kind of on the infield, or what represents kind of the infield here. So wide variety of prices. Got some friends going to this, so I know they're going to be excited for the event. And this is the thing, right? At least if you're going to this, you're going for an event. You're not necessarily going to really care about the ins and inner workings of a baseball game. And maybe considering these two teams, that's for the best.
It may be considering these two teams that is for the best, because at least Cincinnati's got a winning record. They fell to 52-48 with that loss yesterday to the Mets, but
yeah, maybe I should backtrack because they're only 2.5 back of the Giants for that last. Them and the Giants are neck and neck for the last wild card spot.
I will tell you, Ellie De La Cruz will be worth the price of admission, and after that throw that Ronald Acuna Jr. made on Friday night, he's must-see TV as well. So I mean, you've got some talent, individually speaking, that will be taking the field at Bristol International Speedway, but you know, the team matchup isn't necessarily what you would call compelling at this point, and most of that lying at the feet of the Braves. But
and you got Tim McGraw doing the pregame, so I mean, if you're, I would spend $40 to go watch Tim McGraw with a little baseball game to follow.
There you go. That might be the way to go at it. It's probably the cheapest Tim McGraw ticket you're going to come up with. So, we mentioned during the rundown, Houston defeats Seattle 11-3 to close out that 3-game series up there after losing 7-6 in 11 innings on Saturday and 6-1 on Friday. They continue their road trip out at Arizona tonight. That's an 8:40 start. Connor Gordon gets the start for the Astros, 3-2 with a 4.67. Zach Gallen, 7-10 with a 5.40 is going for the Diamondbacks, who apparently, having now gotten to 500 at 50-50, feel like maybe they're not sellers after all. There had been talk that they would be moving their third baseman Suarez, but seems like he's kind of been pulled back. So keep an eye on the Diamondbacks out there in the NL West. In the AL West, Texas is hosting the Athletics. Texas 50-50. It'll be Jacob Lopez for the Athletics, 3-5 with a 4.20, and Jack Leiter, former Vandy boy, 5-6 with a 4.37 going for the Rangers. But I mentioned the Rangers particularly because they got a fantastic start out of Kumar Rocker on Saturday night, maybe the best of his major league career to this point. Went 5 2/3, no hit. Gave up 1 hit in 6 1/3, shutout inning, struck out 5 as the Rangers took down the best team in Major League Baseball right now, the Detroit Tigers, 4-1. Detroit won yesterday to close out that series, but obviously a huge start for Kumar Rocker and ideally a sign of things to come for that former Vandy boy.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get on a little bit of a roll here.
Milwaukee won its 10th straight game yesterday, defeating the Dodgers 6-5. They have swept the Dodgers in their 6-game season series. The Dodgers are now 2-10 in their last 12 games. Still a factor in the West, obviously, just because of the start that they got out to, but things are not great at Chavez Ravine right now.
Not great, but man, oh man, you want to talk about a fun race potentially to the finish. The Cubs and Brewers, two best records in the NL, obviously tied atop the NL Central rankings. Give me that stretch down the run. Just like the Blue Jays a couple weeks ago, they've reeled off 10 straight victories, have the Brew Crew, and man, it feels like it's going to be a fun sprint to the finish. LA's got enough of a cushion, like you said, at the moment. Also, the Giants have gone into free fall mode, losing 5 in a row. So it feels like the Padres are the team that really might give LA a run for its money. So maybe some fun little matchups. We got the Phillies are up a half game on the Mets. The Cubs and Brewers are tied. And then you got the Padres kind of lurking around with the Dodgers. The NL races could be pretty fun this year.
The Brewers have won 34 of their last 46, the best record in baseball over that stretch. So they have certainly gotten themselves in position to make things interesting in the NL Central. Again, the Sounds took 2 of 3 from visiting Indianapolis over the weekend, dropping the finale yesterday 7-3. They have Charlotte coming to First Horizon Park for a 6-game series beginning tomorrow. It's a 6:35 start out there. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Let's take a break here as our number 1 of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the books. When we come back, we'll talk a little football. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The second hour of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today starts right now. We're presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We are Wade Neely there, Mo Patton here in the Main Street Murray studios, and let's talk a little football. Again, the Southeastern Conference Media Day is wrapped up Thursday, and one of the last coaches to speak was Mike Elko from Texas A&M. We mentioned earlier in the week the little mix-up with Steve Sarkisian and the University of Texas and Texas A&M's fight song. Wondered if there would be any fun had with that situation when Texas A&M stepped out on Thursday. Apparently cooler heads prevailed, unfortunately. No such shenanigans. Little disappointed there. But Elko did have some fun with it after he was introduced and said that if you were betting on him coming out to the Eyes of Texas or upon you, you lost. So I'm glad somebody got a chuckle or two out of it, but I was kind of hoping for more.
Yeah, it's kind of like it sums up the SEC Media Days experience in a whole, right? We kind of always want a little something, always want a little more. Don't always get it. And yeah, this would have been nice. Could have been kind of nice little playful banter because, man, as bad as Texas absolutely throttled A&M last year, the build up to that game was out of this world, and it would have been just as exciting to kind of see that continue. But it felt a little cheated.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I was a little disappointed that they didn't have a little extra fun with that. But hey, such is life, I guess. Somebody screwed up with the Texas A&M fight song heading into the Texas media availability. You don't want to make that person feel any worse. I don't guess. I don't know. Yeah.
We think, right? I mean, this is the one league
I
where
want
it's
to
not out of the
acknowledge
realm
we had
of,
the wrong music.
it's the one league that it's not out of the realm of
Yeah,
possibility
exactly.
that some shenanigans going to got on.
I want to acknowledge we had the wrong music played after I introduced Steve Sarkisian. So mistakes happen, no ill intent there, and we'll make sure we do better in possessing our responsibilities. So said Greg Sankey. So I guess that kind of tamped down any more fun, Again, for those of you who had me walking out to the Eyes of Texas, you lost your bet, Elko said when he took the stage. So, yeah. I don't know that I would have lost, but I don't know that I would have bet on it either, just because sometimes, folks just won't let you have any fun. Come on, Greg. Again, we mentioned it during the rundown, and an unfortunate occurrence in Cordova, Tennessee, late Saturday night. Ole Miss freshman defensive end Corey Adams died in a shooting. Ole Miss put out a statement yesterday. We're devastated to learn that Corey Adams, a freshman on the team, passed away last night in Cordova, Tennessee. While our program is trying to cope with this tragic loss, our thoughts are with his loved ones during this incredibly difficult time. Out of respect for his family, we will not be commenting further. We ask the Ole Miss community to keep Corey in our thoughts and respect the privacy of everyone involved. Adams was one of 5 victims in this shooting, 4 others wounded, all in non-critical condition. Adams at the scene and expired. Freshman signed out of Edna Carr High School down in Louisiana, enrolled for the spring semester, went through spring practice with the team. And I'm at a loss, and as a parent, as much as anything, I'm just kind of at a loss as to all of the gun violence and the impact that it's having on our young population. And I mean, I don't want to get on any kind of a soapbox just because I'm probably not qualified for it, but Jesus, we got to do something.
And yeah, it feels like it's been too much, and obviously we're only discussing this in the lens of a sports show. So I mean that's tough to think about in any capacity, but certainly the fact that we're kind of thrust into this kind of really hits even closer to home and kind of makes it even sadder.
Yeah, I mean it's we like to talk about balls and strikes and touchdowns and fumbles and that kind of thing, but I think we have to acknowledge when something like this takes place, just because it is a part of the landscape, unfortunately, these days of college athletics. So I just don't think there's any way to really ignore it. So, and that young man deserves, to be recognized, and our thoughts are with him and his family, obviously. I Past that, I'm kind of at a loss. But meanwhile, you got an interesting situation coming up down at Tulane now. Former BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff, who had been sued for a sexual harassment incident out there, and was, I guess that was dismissed, but he was still facing a 7-game suspension from the university as a result of a violation of the school's honor code related to premarital sex. Retzlaff withdrew from BYU. He has now landed at Tulane, is expected to be QB1 for the Green Wave, which, again, creates an interesting situation for the guy who thought he was QB1. Former Iowa and former Northwestern starter, whose name had escaped me, Brendan Sullivan, had started in a couple of Big Ten programs, Iowa and Northwestern, transferred to Tulane, and felt like he was a starter until Retzlaff shows up. And I don't know if that's a battle. I don't think Retzlaff comes in there to be anything less than the starter, but how does that work, Wade?
Yeah, I mean, two ways to approach that, right? I mean, if you go PlayStation NCAA mode, you just start the best guy and whoever has the best camp, and you roll about your business. If you kind of put your overall program kind of in the lens there for Coach Summerall, that may not be as easy. So I mean, it's kind of a thin balancing act when you're bringing in a guy. And obviously, it's worth pointing out, if this was a walk-on caliber type player, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the fact this guy can spin it, man, it makes it a little dicey. And I'll be kind of fascinated to see. Tulane is, probably not going to be quite like they were a couple of years ago, 2 years ago when they're beating USC, in a Sugar Bowl. But however, they're going to be sneaky good, and they could make a run at the American again this year. And them and Memphis probably have something to say about that. So kind of an interesting decision and kind of a fascinating kind of little case study here on where they're going to go forward.
Yeah, we talked to Jeff Murphy last week from Group of Five Guys, and he did indicate that this Tulane iteration might not be what we've seen out of them the last couple of years, but that was before this news came out as well. Retzlaff threw for almost 3,600 yards and 23 touchdowns during his tenure at BYU. Sullivan, again, has thrown for 13 career touchdowns, 1,778 yards. And during his time at Northwestern and Iowa, 2 years at Northwestern, this past season at Iowa. So not quite 600 yards per season. So it looks, just from a statistical standpoint, like Retzlaff might be a step up for Tulane, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think it's got to be tough. And I mean, you got to play every day to earn the position. I get that. But you kind of felt like, as you looked across the landscape of that QB room at Tulane, if you're Brendan Sullivan, you're thinking, okay, this guy can't beat me. This guy can't beat me. I'm okay. And then all of a sudden the door opens up, and here comes a guy who's thrown for 3,600 yards and 23 touchdowns. Like, damn. They keep throwing guys at me. What's up? So,
kind of like Mason Rudolph on the Steelers. He's like, all right, I finally got this job won. Well, no, you thought you had this job won.
No.
But it will be interesting, too. Brendan Sullivan, you mentioned his time there at Northwestern. Tulane, conveniently enough, opens its season at Northwestern this year. So, he's really kind of hoping, all right, maybe if you're going to supplant me as the starter, at least let me get some run in that first game. I got a lot of folks going to be wanting to come cheer me on there. But to the point a minute ago, too, they catch a really, really tough schedule in the sense they got to go to UTSA, who's likely going to be duking it out with Memphis for the title, and they got to go to Memphis. So schedule makers did them no favors with their 2 toughest games coming on the road.
Meanwhile, don't call them athletic. News earlier today came out that the American Athletic Conference is now the American Conference, or simply American, as part of a rebranding effort. They're dropping the athletic, and they have also rolled out a mascot, Soar, the eagle. Commissioner Tim Pernetti says a brand is more than a name. Over the past year, we stepped back, listened, and involved our community. That's how real lasting identity is made. We're not slick, we're strong. This brand defines who we are. Service and mission, driven institutions of higher learning with highly competitive athletics and deeply committed leaders. So again, the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, is now the American Conference. I guess they were kind of concerned about confusion between the AAC and the ACC. So just call them the American and call it good. This is the 13th season for that conference, which again includes Tulane, Memphis, and others. It's interesting. Again, I don't know that we have seen a conference mascot before this.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, this is kind of a 2-part story because on one hand, okay, I kind of can get on board with the name change. On the other hand, I don't know, it feels a little like you undermined yourself there with the mascot. And internet seems like it's torn on the mascot. I saw some stuff on this online. Some folks, I kind of thought my initial glance was it looks pretty cool, not too bad. And then some people pointed out that looks like somebody made this on ChatGPT, and I couldn't really argue a ton with that. So I don't know, how does this work other than the conference title game? Is this guy, Soars, he going around to different games? Does he only appear at official functions? Does somebody get hired? Is there a live mascot component? I got a few more questions here if you're going to start just rolling out mascots like this at a conference level.
Finally, a little tidbit out of the NFL. Apparently, Desmond Ridder is back in familiar territory after spending last season both in Arizona and with the Raiders. The former Cincinnati Bearcat has signed apparently with the Cincinnati Bengals. So he will be in the mix to back up Joe Burrow with the Bengals. In signing Ridder, they have released former Titan Logan Woodside. So that might kind of dovetail into our next segment. But Ridder, the second quarterback taken in 2022's draft by Falcons, 8-9 starting in Atlanta, 14 touchdowns, 12 picks, 3,500 plus yards. Was traded about this time a year ago to Arizona for Rondale Moore. Released by the Cardinals, signed by the Raiders, who played pretty much everybody at quarterback last year. Played in 6 games with them. But he's now in Cincinnati again.
And if you are a Bengals fan, you are hoping that you never see this guy outside of your couple preseason games.
In addition to Ridder and Burrow, they've also got Jake Browning and former Auburn quarterback Peyton Thorne, also former Michigan quarterback Peyton Thorne in that QB room. So yeah, if you are a Bengals fan, you are really hoping for good health for Mr. Burrow there. Let's take a break here as we continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. When we return, we'll be joined by Teresa M. Walker of the Associated Press to talk a little Tennessee Titans. Speaking of quarterbacks, stay tuned.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Joining us now, the queen of Tennessee sports media, Teresa M. Walker of the Associated Press. Teresa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a good thing that I worked today because there was a little bit of something in the air this morning. So, I mean, it's football season, and we got a little bit of a surprise today.
A little bit? Is that what you're calling it? A little bit of a surprise?
A little bit. I'll say this. And for all the people who thought that Will Levis would be traded away or something by the end of the preseason, I never bought that because I thought he was a great backup. But now, excuse me, talk for a minute. I got to.
We got you covered, T, but I'll say this much. I'm curious your thoughts on that because I was one of those that, if he has a great camp and somebody goes down on another squad, he's a likely candidate to fill in. So I'm curious your thoughts there.
Well, I'll say this. They face the problem that they would have had they traded him. Who's backing up Cam Ward? Okay. And that was the job that I thought he had. And his biggest competition was Brandon Allen. Now the challenge is, do you really think Tim Boyle should be your third? And while Brandon Allen has a lot of time and knows what Brian Callahan is being asked to do in that offense, the challenge is, can he be a guy that comes in and wins you a game if Cam Ward is sidelined? It's a 17-game NFL season these days. Getting a quarterback through is so tough. And now you've got a rookie. You're going to have – now they're in the pool of looking for another potential backup.
And, for everything that you said about maybe he gets into training camp, maybe he, draws some attention, maybe you've got a trade piece there. Hindsight's always 20/20, but should they have moved him?
For what? Another draft pick? At a certain point, you've got to have somebody. And
you've got to have somebody, but this front office has also said, they want 50 draft picks in 3 years? Was that the number? Where are you going to get them?
Well, the problem is you've got this season to play, and Will Levis was expected to be a backup this year at worst. I mean, we can all roll our eyes when Brian Callahan said in May that he's rotating these guys. They're not naming a starter. You're going to have to go out and compete for it. We all expect Cam Ward to be the starter September 7th when they open the season at Denver. But that's the thing. Will Levis had a chance to compete. And, again, it was very obvious that Cam Ward's going to be that guy. And Will Levis was in training camp. You've got to have a backup quarterback this season. Getting a draft piece that helps you, even if that you took one this year, was there another quarterback that you could get a rookie to come in? As he himself said, he felt so much more comfortable in his second year in Brian Callahan's offense. So they were counting on him to be a piece this season. And if you're counting on somebody to play a part in your offense and be that key role backup, guess what? You're not trading him because what? You're going to get a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick maybe at best. And let's be honest, probably more of a 7th round. Did you look at last season?
Teresa, that's where my issue also, I'm kind of curious, is make of what you will of what we saw out of Will Levis as a starting quarterback. But if nothing else, having a guy who, okay, he's a classic example of what maybe not to do when you do get the reins, and in a way, kind of that mentorship, as young as he is, for Ward could have been a nice little kind of feather in your cap, so to speak, because of that example. Hey, don't be like this guy. Now you can look at Boyle, and now you can look at Allen, and no offense to those guys, but I mean, that doesn't have the same appeal to me as looking at Levis and say, okay, learn from his mistakes.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, Levis had been a part of this offseason program, okay? He had been there. The Titans statement, showed clear growth as a leader. But they also make clear that this was Levis's decision. And that's the thing. He hurt the AC joint last year in Miami diving for a first down. I think we all can remember that. They had a bye week. He comes back. He said that the shoulder was bothering him when he threw a late pick and a 3-point loss at home to the Colts. And then he was out 3 games before coming back because of the shoulder. So this decision comes down as they report tomorrow for training camp. And he was here, usually surgery is the last option, rest, rehab. I've been dealing with rehab for my knees since March. They don't, there's no doctor. I don't care if you're a pro athlete. They don't rush the surgery, so you have to, exhaust all the other options. There are 6 weeks before they even get to opening week in the NFL, 7 weeks to the opener. So that, guys can start a season on physically unable to perform if you want to try the rehab route, right? So that's the thing that I kind of circle back to. Why, this was Will Levis's decision pretty quickly to go to surgery. Why not in January when the season ended? He was throwing in the offseason program. I'm not the only one who said this. Taylor Lewan, for all he's worth, he's questioning the timing. Other former Titans are like, this decision now? Because many an athlete has been in position. Do I come to camp? I mean, there are reports already that Lloyd Cushenberry is going to be on the PUP list along with L'Jarius Sneed to start camp as they work their way back. Cushenberry coming off of, I'm trying to think, I think it was an Achilles tendon issue. So
it was. So
that's the thing, you can have injuries that you're working through. Usually you try to see, I mean, they didn't put Snead on IR last year until later in the season because they were kept trying to give him a chance to get back on the field. And, that's the thing. I haven't talked to anyone at the Titans, but my gut is telling me that they would much prefer to have had Will Levis available and trying to go through rehab to see if he could be available this season. But guess what? He is under his rookie contract. He is under contract this year. He's got, Spot Rack. I retweeted it earlier that, I think it's 1.6 million guaranteed this year, and he's guaranteed 1.2 million next year. So, he's not going to be around on the field to help improve any trade stock he might have, at least for the Titans at this point. We'll see if anybody's willing to, offer anything come next February or March for him. Because guess what? In the meantime, the Titans have got to go. They've got to find somebody to be their backup quarterback. who can, Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle or veterans that you can lean on to a certain amount of what Wade mentioned. But let's face it, sometimes you hear better from a peer who's been a little closer to your draft status and expectations, shall we say.
Well, and aside from that, whatever the season was last year, Levis was involved in it. Neither of those other two guys have been here. So, I mean, when it gets real, Levis is the only one there really for Ward to kind of lean on a little bit. So, I mean, there was a purpose that he could have served. And to your point, I don't know how long the procedure that he's having a week from tomorrow takes to recover from, but I'd be interested in whether or not there was a time that he could have done this that would have made him available for this season.
Well, that's the thing. He's having surgery July 29th. Well, guess what? There's still 5 months left in the year. And then season leaks over in January. But if he had potentially had this is not a new injury. Now maybe he aggravated it during the offseason. Maybe he aggravated it during workouts over the last couple of weeks getting ready for camp. Those are things we do not know at this point. So but it does seem to again, the statement, Will Levis's decision. He talked to doctors and his representatives. And one on the listing, Jimmy Sexton is listed as an agent. So Jimmy Sexton has his ways of helping players and making the best choices for those players. The problem is Will Levis's tape at this point. Again, I just don't see an NFL team, saying, trying to outbid each other. There's not going to be any auctioneering. No, I'll give you a 5. I'll give you a 5. No, I'll give you a 4. That's not going to happen with Will Levis. They may get something. It ain't going to be don't lower your expectations. You're not going to get a 1, 2, 3. I'd be impressed and surprised if they get a 4 or a 5.
With that being said, Teresa, who do the Titans? Is there an immediate name that you could think of, or has already been kind of circled as far as bringing somebody else into camp and at least bringing a little extra veteran leadership for Ward's development?
I know there's a lot of names floating out their way, but it seems if I'm a quarterback in the NFL that wants to get into a camp, I'm not taking too many calls unless it's the New Orleans Saints at this point, right? Because they're the one team we know has a starting job up for grabs for whoever can take it. That's kind of like Ali Oxenfree. Come on out, boys. Let's have a race to the finish. And the Titans' best chances, honestly, might be. I mean, they'll probably get a 4th in here, but I won't be surprised if maybe that backup quarterback or that quarterback who's on the roster once the regular season starts doesn't come from until after the preseason final cuts come. And that's, I think, August 26th. The last preseason game is the 22nd, and then they do that one final cut for all of the league a few days later, and then they've got almost a 2-week break before the start of the regular season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go about. I mean, we're getting Brian Callahan tomorrow at noon. We're also getting Mike Berganzi. I'm really curious. That's going to be a question. How quickly do you move? Do you want someone in here now, learning the system and providing the competition that we thought they had? And now that's gone. So Cam Ward, it's a good thing that he's such a self-motivated self-starter. I mean, he's the guy that in June we were talking about how he was getting in at 5 a.m. and they're like having to shoo him out of the building. So he does not seem to be the kind of athlete who will have his head inflated by being named a starter sooner rather than later. But it seems to be a fait accompli. And the question again becomes, who's the backup?
Teresa Walker with the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Teresa, we were talking at the close of the previous segment. The Bengals have signed Desmond Ridder. They released Logan Woodside, former Tennessee Titan Logan Woodside, who was with Zach Taylor and the Bengals this past season. Do you feel like somebody like that might be an option just from, some Titan adjacent experience maybe?
Well, he has experience here, but let's not forget how much this team, the front office, the coaching staff has changed since
Sure.
Logan Woodside was here. So, I'll just say this. Now that you've got Will Levis out of the picture, I think the easiest situation for the next month is just give him some more reps, because the more reps he gets, the better. As long as you don't wear out that arm, and just give him some experience. And then again, see what blossoms and who's available left standing once you get it to the point where you've seen enough of it. Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle, and then because guess what? Even though they've been rotating, they could use some more reps as well. So it's almost a situation. The NFL these days, you've got to have 3 quarterbacks, even if you're stashing one on the practice squad. But during the training camp preseason, it might not be a bad thing to just get more reps for all 3 of them.
Makes sense. Aside from this little bombshell here that we woke up to, what were your thoughts about this team? What were some bullet points for you heading into camp this week?
I want to see how the wide receiving core starts shaking out. It's so different. Calvin Ridley is back, but Van Jefferson's here, Tyler Lockett for experience. And then it's a whole cast of, who's here. That Bryce Oliver's the guy who's come back, and they've been really high on him. But there's Shamari DK, Alec Manor. I cannot get that young man's last name straight, no matter how much I practice. Xavier Restrepo. They gave him a nice signing bonus as an unrestricted or an unsigned free agent. So as a rookie, so there's just competition up and down the slots here. And there's some guy named who was a first round pick for this team a couple years ago, and Traylon Burks. And he's apparently going to be ready for training camp after doing individual drills during the offseason program. So, I want to see that competition. I want to see this offensive line that they brought in 2 new starters, move J.C. Latham from left to right. Can that line finally protect a quarterback? I'm not making any predictions. I need to see something first. But then edge rusher, they got rid of Harold Landry, brought in some new guys. Who steps up to fill the void? And then lastly, inside linebacker. Cody Barton seems to be a dude who's flying around the field making plays, but I want to see who else steps up for depth. They've got Cedric Gray, a draft pick last year, and James Williams. So who is going to step up there? Do they have enough? This is a team that when you go 3-14, they've made a lot of changes, but let's be honest. When we see those those final, when they're at the top of the roster waiver claims for the first 3 weeks of the regular season, this roster easily can see a lot of churning, not just over the last 5 to 8 picks, but maybe even 10. So, guys who make that final roster better not be comfortable, because they're competing not just in that locker room, but with pretty much the entirety of the NFL. Because, Amy Adams Strunk has made it clear she was not happy with 3-14. You go from 6 wins to 3. No, that's not the way you want to go. So they've got to show that they can get better. So that's my, if the receivers are improved, that helps Cam Ward. If the offensive line is better, that helps Cam Ward. But that defense, they posted some good on paper numbers, but again, 3 wins, nothing was good enough.
Nothing was good, Teresa. And I was going to ask you about the offensive line. To me, if you put Ward behind a even average NFL offensive line, that's when you really kind of get a true kind of evaluation of this kid heading into this season. So to me, I hate to say like a broken record, because it feels like we've had this conversation for the last 2 or 3 off seasons now. But if that offensive line is capable, I trust Ward and his playmaking ability and the instincts with some of those receivers. I'd be less concerned about the receivers so much as kind of still beeping up that offensive line.
If they can provide protection, then I think we'll get a chance to see what Cam Ward can do. And this is look what he did in Miami. A kid who was not drafted, who went from little teeny school in Texas to Washington State to Miami, and then the number 1 pick overall in the NFL. And for people who didn't think he got his flowers back in April, well, they're certainly starting to notice that, Cam Ward looks like he's going to be the starter in Tennessee. And it's like, duh. But yes, if that line, Kevin Zeitler and Peter Skoronski both were ranked by ESPN among their top guards in the league. Well, Peter Skoronski quietly came on later last season, but J.C. Latham was having some rookie struggles. He lost a ton of weight. He admittedly struggled because of the weight late in the year. He's now leaner, thinner. Boy, I tried to make a whole new word there. Lupper. Anyway,
I thought that was lunch and dinner.
Exactly. Lupper. Yeah, that is lunch and dinner. But
winner.
He leaned up, and he is now looking so different going in his second season, working with Brian Callahan's dad, Bill, excuse me, too many B's. And so he's got that whole year working with Kevin Zeitler is a long-time veteran right guard, one of the best right guards in the NFL. So he's going to have a chance to work with him, which is only going to help Latham get better. And then, Cushenberry should be back at some point this preseason to be at center, which, trust me, that's the linchpin for this group. But Skoronski is a former first-round pick who, he's coming on. And then, Dan Moore. Yes, I know what the numbers showed, what he did in Pittsburgh, but change of scenery, a chance to work with Callahan. There was familiarity already because he was working with some of the Titans linemen in Dallas at a gym for offensive linemen. So on paper, they've got a chance to be better because, should I say it, they can't get much worse than they were last year. I said that last year and they found a way.
Yeah, I really hesitate to say anything along those lines after you and I both expressed our dismay over somebody having the Titans picking among the top 5 in this year's draft just because of the additions that they had made to that roster heading into last season. And surely how much worse than 6-11 can they be? Well, we found out. So no
in 12 games,
projections.
Well, exactly. But in 12 games, Will Levis was sacked 41 of those, and 41 times in 12 games. And yet they had six losses by 8 points or less. So it's like, that's the thing. If you can protect your quarterback a second longer, and I saw some stats the other day, it was interesting. So of the NFL's top quarterbacks who locked in and threw to their first target, 3 of them were in the AFC South. Will Levis was one of them. But the guy at the top of that list was some guy named Trevor Lawrence. Not far behind him was Anthony Richardson. So it's like, we'll see where Cam Ward can do if they can give him some time to throw.
Teresa, as we've kind of had this conversation, it does seem like at least some early reports that Femi Oladejo is going to officially sign that rookie deal. How concerned or how concerning would it have been if we had kind of ended up in a holdout situation with your number 2 pick?
It would have been concerning because he's a pass rusher, an edge rusher, which is an area of, what do they have at that position? So having him available and ready to start training camp, huge. It was interesting. I did a show on Thursday morning, and at that point, I think only 2 of the second rounders had signed. And I said then, it's like, don't worry, there'll be a flood. And then sure enough, it's like they've just been coming. They needed a couple to, they had those fully guaranteed deals to start off the first picks in that round. And that's what they were fighting over was money. And, some of the guys have gotten like 87% guaranteed, 90% of the deals guaranteed.
Tyler Shaw signed a fully guaranteed deal, did he not?
Yeah, well, and where is he at? Isn't he in New Orleans?
in purgatory is where he is.
Exactly. So it's like, I would have said, guys, I may be starting for you. You probably want to guarantee my deal. So that's the thing. Those deals are all slotted, and once you got a few of them going, it just the numbers are what they are. It was just a matter of what is guaranteed and how much a team is guaranteed. It was going to get done. I wasn't worried.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Teresa, again, wasn't necessarily expecting to talk to you today, but the events of the morning or an event of the morning kind of dictated otherwise. But we appreciate you taking some time with us and giving us some thoughts on Will Levis's season-ending shoulder surgery. That's a
It
bizarre
was
phrase to be uttering.
trust me, I had an editor reach out and say, "Wait, is he the starter?" And it's like, no, it's going to be Cam Ward. I mean, we've known that since they used the number one. Actually, we've known that since the end of March, the end of the season. Anyway, but
End of the season.
it's going to make training camp even more interesting. But all eyes were already going to be on Cam Ward.
With good reason. And we'll see how the Rook responds to that. But, T, we appreciate it. Look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All righty. Let's take a break. Let's come back and wrap things up with a bow here on the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Y'all come back.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanana. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It is the final segment. Goodness gracious. And I'm tired. It's the final segment of the weekend wrap-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And I'm trying to grasp the difference in not losing since April and only losing once since April, because that's where the Nashville Soccer Club finds itself at this point following their 1-0 victory over visiting Toronto at Geodis Park on Saturday night. It's been well documented on this show. I'm not the biggest soccer fan there is, but I am fascinated by from where this team has come to where it is right now. All they do is win or tie. So, another big performance Saturday night. Sam Surridge still in the Golden Boot hunt with the only goal of the game. And defensively, they made it hold up. Another clean sheet for Joe Willis. It's just fascinating to me, the level that they are playing to at this point.
Yeah, they are just stacking up wins, stacking up results. And other than that trip to Miami last Saturday, they've been playing at just such a high level. I mean, on any given night, that effort might have been well enough to earn a point if Messi didn't have the magic dust in his boots yet again. I mean, so we're talking about a team that's just absolutely rewritten every thought or connotation of you might have had about them entering this season. And yeah, they have kind of continued to stamp their claim as one of the MLS's top squads. Kind of like Valera told us last week. I mean, it was kind of a gross, kind of an ugly game. I guess on Star Wars Night, the Force was with them because Toronto kind of, tried to give it their best effort, tried to play a little bit more of a defensive-minded approach. Didn't matter. You mentioned Surridge with the early goal. Nashville just controlling the pace of play has been so refreshing this season compared to last, and it's led more often than not to more legit, genuine goal-scoring opportunities. and they have been able to convert. So it was a good win for them. That was a match that just PTSD, old school Nashville soccer fan. I just entered saying this has a draw written all over it. Would not have been surprised if it ended 0-0 or they gave up a cheapie somewhere along the way and it finished 1-1. But the fact that they held it down and got the win was massive to celebrate at home what has been a remarkable run here in this last couple months.
Well, I mean, again, they certainly gave themselves very little margin for error after getting the one goal early. And so I can see where if you're watching how your PTSD would kick in there, it's just you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to fall there in Toronto to come up with one some kind of way. But, you know, the defense and Willis just kind of held up. And so now, you know, they send those 3 guys to Austin for Wednesday night's All-Star game, and then they go on to San Diego, and there's no way to know just how far they can run this thing out. But, you know, you don't feel like San Diego is necessarily on Miami's level. So you're not shocked if they get some sort of a result Saturday when they go to the West Coast either.
Perhaps not. You know, Miami's has had Nashville's number, but San Diego has got more points than them this season. And we talked with Valera about how impressive they have been since entering the MLS. So it won't be a gimme by any means. And, you know, hopefully NSC can kind of shake off, even though most of the team is going to be resting this week. And those guys, you know, will have a little tread on their tires coming out of All-Star week. But just the festivities in general will be what kind of really grinds them down. So it won't be a gimme, won't be easy by any stretch on Saturday. You're talking about the top team in the West at their place. So it'll be difficult, but it has turned into, and I hope this is what fans have kind of come to appreciate, is the numbers and the streak. Yeah, they've been impressive, and that's what's grabbing the headlines. But what you're really seeing is just this team is just flat out good, and they're just playing at a much higher level. And, you know, the numbers kind of lure in the casual fans and, you know, casual hosts like you and I. But really, we're just talking about a team that is just flat out solid and has just been remarkable. One of the greatest turnarounds in recent MLS memory, if not all time, because, I mean, they were putrid last year, and they look completely different. They have the second high, they're tied with Philadelphia for the highest goal differential in the MLS this season. We've talked about they just have battered and bruised some teams that they probably would have played with their food a little bit in years past. And so everything about them is improved this year.
14-5-5, tied for second in the Eastern Conference table with the Philadelphia Union, trailing only FC Cincinnati. And they're 47 points, or one back of Cincinnati, and actually 4 ahead of San Diego, if I'm reading this right way.
Mm-hmm.
Am I reading this? Okay. So that MLS Liga MX All-Star game again Wednesday night, 8 o'clock first touch. You can see it on Apple TV. So check out Nahar, Mukhtar, and Suraj there. What else do we need to get to from the weekend? Let's go across the pond for just a second. Again, Scotty Scheffler went into yesterday with a 4-stroke lead, came out of yesterday with a 4-stroke lead to win the British Open. Your top 3 finishers were American. Scheffler finishing 17 under, Harris English finishing 13 under, and Chris Goddard at 12 under. But it was Scheffler's show once again.
Yeah, yet again. I mean, and I watched a fair amount of his round on Friday, and he drained a birdie putt. I want to say it was hole 4, hole 5, from about 30-something feet, and it was just like, okay, he's dialed in. And we've talked about it so many times. When he's dialed in, it's the closest thing we've seen to kind of Tiger Woods, in the sense that you might as well just pack up and head home. This guy is just a ruthless assassin, a baby-faced assassin, and just continues to take names. It was kind of neat, though. You know, the numbers and the parallels come up every single time he wins an event, especially a major. But it was really neat. Tiger wins the 97 Masters, and then his 4th major came at the 2000 Open. That was 1,197 days between that first and fourth. Scotty Scheffler, he wins the 2022 Masters. His fourth major comes this weekend at the Open, and it was exactly 1,197 days apart. Exactly the same kind of trajectory. He's not quite on Tiger's level just yet in terms of just absolutely dominating all the other events. And Tiger obviously got a little bit earlier start in his career in terms of big wins. But, man, this guy continues to impress. Other key takeaway from this weekend, shout out Chris Gotterup, who had like $2.2 million in career earnings entering the Scottish Open last week. And between the Scottish Open and the Open in his third-place finish you reference, he's now won like 2.2 more million. He basically has doubled up his career earnings in the last 2 weeks.
It's just wild what he has done here, and the stranglehold that he has kind of got the rest of the PGA Tour in. And I'd be curious when the last time was that he took a lead into Sunday that he didn't convert. It just feels like he doesn't get caught from behind very often.
No, and we're rolling. This was a great weekend. You mentioned the 4 Americans. Matt Fitzpatrick. And Hatung Lee tying for fourth, but, throw them guys to the side there for a minute. 4 top American. I mean, we are streaking toward what is going to be an epic Ryder Cup. And even saw Bryson sneak in the mix. Man, he had one of the rounds for the ages yesterday, firing a 64. If he did not shoot himself in the foot so badly on Thursday with that 78, we'd really be talking about possibly Bryson and Scotty going toe-to-toe. Heading into Sunday, but it wasn't meant to be. It was Scotty's tournament to lose, and he, in fact, did not lose it. He was magnificent yet again, and, kind of setting the stage. Like I said, Ryder Cup coming up a couple months is going to be epic.
We mentioned during the rundown, Team Collier defeats Team Clark in the WNBA All-Star game. It was a 20-point win for Nafisa and her bunch. Team Clark playing without Alicia Clark. Huge performance from Nafisa in that win, by the way. But Sabrina Ionescu winning the 3-point contest on Friday night. Natasha Cloud winning the skills challenge. And the players making quite the statement in the pregame with their pay us what you owe us T-shirts in warm-ups that have turned out to be a little bit more polarizing than I would have expected.
Yeah, people like to argue on the internet, especially when we're talking about women's salaries and WNBA salaries in particular, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Obviously, the CBA talks are going on, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on as things progress there, as well as things on the court as the WNBA gets back together for the second half of their season starting tomorrow night. So we'll be trying to keep an eye on all of that. Denny Hamlin wins at Dover. We will talk more to Heather Williams about that on Wednesday, obviously, but big win for him. So knocking SVG out of the winner's circle. You've got Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs in the finals of the in-season challenge when they go to Indy this weekend. Again, we will catch up with Heather on Wednesday to talk more coherently on all of that. So looking forward to Heather on Wednesday, as always. Want to mention a scheduling change or an expansion here on Main Street Sports today. Starting next week, you saw David Wilson, you saw Calvin White with us on Thursday as we were talking about the Titans High School Football Media Day. You're going to see a lot more of those guys because they will be taking on some regular co-hosting duties along with Wade and myself. So we're kind of getting things a little younger here on Main Street Sports today. Those two guys will each be on the air a couple of days a week, allowing Wade and I to back away a couple of days a week and allowing all of us to take care of some more pressing duties that we have in addition to the show. So it's going to be fun. Be sure and welcome David and Calvin when we start that new schedule next week. Be sure and see Wade and me tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here on Main Street Sports today.